The morning air hung thick with silence. Inside a quiet brick home, nestled in a God-fearing neighborhood, a tragedy lay undisturbed. A neighbor out for an early walk first noticed it, the porch light still on after sunrise, the front door slightly ajar, and a soft wail echoing from inside. By the time authorities arrived, 3 lives had already been taken. The scene was haunting. A woman, a respected former warden, lay motionless on the living room carpet. Her twin daughters, barely 6 months old, were found in their nursery. There was no sign of forced entry, no struggle, no warning, just silence and death. The community was stunned. Church members described her as graceful and strong, a woman of faith who had waited over a decade for the blessing of motherhood. The husband, a respected deacon, quiet, steady, the kind of man who never raised his voice. So what happened behind those walls? What made a man, known for his calm, pick up a weapon and end the lives of the people he once prayed for? Welcome to Crime Vault, your home of true crime. Thank you to all our loyal subscribers for your unwavering support. And to our new viewers, if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that peels back the layers behind quiet lives and loud secrets. Tonight's case is one that left investigators speechless and a community shaken to its foundation. A woman, faithful and firm, burdened by 15 years of infertility, a husband, respected and reserved, growing more distant by the day, and a man behind bars who saw an opening and took it. This is the story of what happens when desire grows in silence, when secrets nest beneath routine, and when a chance at joy becomes a countdown to murder. Let's begin. Her name was Evelyn Carter. She wore her uniform with grace and her badge with pride. For over 20 years, she walked the cold corridors of the state penitentiary, commanding respect not just because of her rank, but because of her unwavering resolve. She was the kind of woman who never raised her voice. She didn't have to. Her presence alone could silence a room full of hardened criminals. But behind the firmness, there was a hidden ache, one she kept sealed away from the world. Evelyn had wanted children, desperately. Every year that passed without a child was another silent grief buried beneath schedules and routines. Doctors offered theories, some optimistic, some clinical, none comforting. She tried, she prayed, she waited. 15 years of longing had shaped her, not into bitterness, but into something quieter, a slow exhaustion, the kind that wears into the bones. She masked it well. Her colleagues knew her as Iron Eve. Her inmates, they called her the Warden Queen. But even queens grow weary. At home, the silence had grown wider. Her husband Franklin, once attentive and warm, had receded. They attended church together, smiled at neighbors, shared meals. But each night, the space between them in bed grew colder. Words became habits. Touch disappeared. They were two ghosts in the same house. Infertility, they said, wasn't a death sentence. But for Evelyn, it was the slow fading of a dream, one that no one else could hear cracking. Then in the unlikeliest of places, a voice answered her silence. He was an inmate, nothing violent in his record, smart, well-spoken, assigned to the library. He quoted scripture, helped the chaplain, said all the right things. She noticed how the others deferred to him. He was different, or so it seemed. They began exchanging greetings, then small talk, then more. And just like that, something shifted inside Evelyn. Something old stirred again. But what she didn't know was how quickly that something could be used against her. Franklin noticed the change, though he never said a word. Evelyn had begun humming again, softly to herself when she thought no one was listening. She bought new clothes, changed her perfume. Her schedule at work shifted subtly, days rearranged under the pretense of extra duty, and her eyes, the way they stayed longer in the mirror, as if searching for someone she hadn't seen in years. He told himself it was nothing, just Evelyn trying to cope in her own way. But deep down, he knew something had shifted, not just in her, but in the air between them. Evelyn was careful. Whatever was growing between her and the inmate, whose name was Joshua Lane, never crossed a visible line. No inappropriate contact, no letters, no calls, just glances, subtle conversations tucked within official reports and schedules. Still, word travels in prisons faster than light. And Joshua, for all his charm, was not as invisible as he thought. It was an inmate in another block who first tipped off a guard, who then told a supervisor, who then quietly alerted the Internal Affairs Office. They had no evidence. Not yet. But they began watching. Back at home, Franklin began praying more. He would wake in the middle of the night and sit alone in the kitchen, staring into his coffee, unsure what he feared most, that Evelyn was slipping away or that she had already gone. And then, the miracle happened. Evelyn was pregnant. Not just pregnant, expecting twins. No one questioned it. Not her doctors, not her friends, not Franklin. Everyone saw it as a gift from God, the reward for years of patience and faith. But Franklin had questions he could never voice. He calculated quietly, memories and moments, dates and silences. And one night, when Evelyn was already deep into her third trimester, he walked past her phone and saw a name he hadn't seen before. Joshua. That was the moment the seed of certainty took root, and from that seed, something dangerous began to grow. Franklin didn't confront her, not right away. He watched. He listened. He began keeping a journal, scribbling notes in the margins of his Bible. He noticed when she lingered by the window too long, when she rushed to silence her phone, when her smile held something distant behind it. And at work, Evelyn could feel it too. The shift, the second glances, the sudden scrutiny in meetings, a coldness that hadn't been there before. She told herself it was stress, fatigue, but deep down she knew someone was watching. Joshua had become careful too. His greetings were now barely nods. His demeanor, once charismatic, had grown measured. He could feel the pressure mounting inside those walls. Someone had caught scent of their exchanges, and it wouldn't be long before silence gave way to exposure. Then came the interview, a quiet summons. Internal Affairs. Just a few questions, they said. Routine, nothing serious. But Evelyn could hear it in their tone. They already had a story in mind. They just needed her to confirm it. She didn't. She denied everything. Said the name Joshua Lane meant nothing beyond routine duties, and they had no concrete proof. Just murmurs, whispers. But whispers were enough to plant seeds. Franklin watched her more closely now. He tracked calls, read between lines. Her pregnancy, once a shared blessing, had become a question he couldn't stop asking. Was he the father? Or had he simply been played into believing a miracle that wasn't his? At church, their prayers grew louder. At home, their silences grew heavier. And all the while, the pressure built. Something had to give, and when it finally did, the fallout would leave nothing standing. Evelyn gave birth in the early hours of a Sunday morning. Twin girls, healthy, perfect. She named them Grace and Glory, names soaked in hope and faith. For a few weeks, their home held the kind of peace she hadn't known in years. Laughter returned, even if only briefly. But Franklin was never the same. He held the babies gently, fed them, rocked them. But behind his eyes was a storm no one could see. He had taken a paternity test, secretly, using one of the baby's pacifiers, mailed in silence to a discreet lab. The results came back 2 weeks later. Neither child was his. The paper stayed folded in his wallet, but the truth unfolded in his mind each hour. Every cry, every coo, every smile from the girls became both a miracle and a torment. He didn't speak of it. He couldn't. But something inside him cracked. Then came the day he didn't go to work. Evelyn found him in the nursery, holding both babies. He looked up at her, tears running silently down his face. She tried to speak, to offer something, an apology, an explanation, anything. But no words came. That night, neighbors heard a single scream, then silence. By morning, Evelyn was gone. So were the girls. The door had been left slightly open. No forced entry, no mess. Just quiet. Franklin sat calmly on the porch when police arrived. He didn't run, didn't cry, just handed them the folded test results and said, "They were never mine." Closing segment, Truth in the silence. The headlines told one story, the autopsy told another. But the truth, the real truth, was found in the spaces between. Evelyn was a woman who spent her life enforcing order, only to find herself imprisoned by her own longing. Joshua Lane, the inmate, was never charged. There was no proof he fathered the children. He was transferred and kept under close watch, his name a silent stain in every report. Franklin is serving 3 life sentences. In court, he barely spoke. Only once did he look up during sentencing and say, "I prayed for a child for 15 years. I never prayed for betrayal." The nursery remains untouched, and the town, once shaken, grew quiet again. But the house at the end of Laurel Street still sits with its porch light flickering some nights, a quiet reminder of how far the weight of silence can go. Thank you for watching Crime Vault. If you found this story compelling, please like, comment, and share your thoughts below. And to our returning viewers, thank you for your continued support. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story where truth hides in plain sight. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and never underestimate the quiet.